Hi there, tennis players. Welcome to Play Tennis Practice Yoga and Yoga for Tennis. Today I'm joined by my good friend, Jack Beardsworth, local legend, fellow teaching pro, and one of my favorite players to hit with. It's been a little while, so we're going to give it a go today. And we're going to talk about how to perform your best on court. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right, so I'm going to have Jack go to the other side of the court. We're going to hit some balls, and we're going to explain how the principles of yoga are very applicable to your tennis game. So first of all, there's a couple of things that you can do before you go out on court. Hopefully you spent a little time to prepare the body mentally, physically. For example, you might kind of sit and center yourself and think about what your intention is for that day's practice or for that match. You might even go through the strokes a little bit in your mind, maybe connect to the senses. What does it feel like to hit the ball? Maybe hear the sounds of the ball. Just put yourself in the space of playing tennis, and that might be more important if you can't do some things physically before you step out on court. Ideally, you get some movement, could be on the court, could be at home before, where you move the body in a way that's similar to how you do in tennis. So some dynamic movement is great. Anything that you can do to get yourself going, especially if you're a slow starter. All right, so that's before you step out on court. So we're gonna hit some balls and we're gonna talk about what you can do while you're on court. All right, so we're gonna come back. We've already done our little warm up, so now we're gonna go ahead and hit. And you may have heard your coach say something like, take 1 point at a time. And so what we mean by that is, can you be in the present moment when you're hitting the tennis ball? So what does that mean? So one cue that you may have heard a million times is to keep your eyes on the ball. Now most players think that they're doing this, but are you really focusing in on the ball? Are you focusing on the seams of the ball, the writing of the ball? The more you're able to do this, the more you discover that you might not have been doing this. So this is a great way to take your mind off of all of that overthinking, that over-efforting, and just focusing in on ball. So we're gonna try that now. So I watch you come off of Jack's racket. That gives me a lot of cues or clues. Is the ball gonna be a forehand? Is it gonna be a backhand? Does the ball have spin on it? How deep is that ball going to be based on what I see as it comes over the net? Of course, these are things that need to be practiced in lessons, with a hitting partner. It's not something that you're gonna magically do when you go into your tennis match. So one drill that I might do to help me out with that, this is one of the oldest drills in the book. In fact, I have another video coming out explaining this little drill. When the ball comes to this side of the court, I'm actually gonna say the word bounce. When I go to hit, I'm actually gonna say the word hit. And that might help me with my rhythm, and it's gonna give me that little mini mantra so that I can really focus in on the ball and nothing else, regardless of what's happened before I came, regardless of what will happen after I leave. So let's try that out. Bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce. That one took 2 bounces. Bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit. And so as you can see, it's pretty hard to be thinking about something else if I'm focusing in on those things. Now there are other ways of watching the ball as well. So another little one that I like to do, as the ball comes off Jack's strings, I'm gonna call out forehand or backhand, just to get me to prepare. How quickly can I see forehand, forehand, backhand, backhand, forehand. And so you get the idea. okay? So there's not one wrong or right way as far as how to watch the ball. It's just finding the little trick, the little tool, and to get you to do that. Okay, another way that we can really be present when we play is to focus in on the breath. You hear me breathing a little more heavily right now. So let's talk about the breath as we're hitting first. This is the reason why you hear the pros grunting. Some are louder than others. We've got the Roger, who's quieter. You don't hear him too much lately, you have actually. And then you have the Maria Sharapovas. Remember Celis back in the day. So ideally we're synchronizing the breath, or rather synchronizing the hit with our breath. We want to be exhaling as we begin our forward swing. That lets go of the exhalation. It creates the inhalation without having to think about it. And the idea is that we're able to swing a little more freely. It's a release. So let's try that out. So as I begin my forward swing, you'll see here on the next one, I'm going to blow out. Or it can be louder. And so I'm breathing. So that's while we're hitting. Again, something that has to be practiced. Really nice to do this in mini tennis and warm up if you're not used to doing it. But then there's also the breathing of in between points, in between rallies. You've got time between those points. You can walk around a little bit. You can try to slow the breath down, breathing in and out through the nose a little bit more. The idea to slow the breaths down. In theory, we can slow down what's happening in the mind. When we get time to stand a little more still, we're able to see what's happening a little more clearly on court with regards to our practice or match. Okay, so that's what happens when we play or while we're playing. And when we've done all these things, we've done the preparation, we've focused in on the ball, you know, you've been doing your lessons, your practices. At that point, it's time to just trust in yourself and let it happen. Okay, there's a lot of over trying, over efforting that happens. I know that I'm guilty of that too. And then finally, post-match, you want to, or post-practice, restore the body, maybe cool down the body a little bit more. You see the pros when they come off the court, they're often, you know, cycling on a bike, they're doing something. Maybe you do some restorative yoga poses, some longer stretch holds, or anything that helps you prepare for next time. Could be hydrating the body, maybe jumping in the hot tub if you're lucky enough to have one. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, regardless of what's happened, it might be a nice idea to reflect on your practice or your match. In other words, you might reflect on what you love about tennis. So not so much about the win or the loss per se, but you know, think about how lucky you are to have this sport in your life. You're relatively fit and healthy, otherwise you wouldn't be playing. And just seeing the bigger picture. If we're too tied to only winning, we're going to be sorely disappointed a lot of the time. So just reflecting, you might even make a little journal. I know that I used to do this as a junior, just to reflect on practices, matches, and that helps me see the big picture. All right, so to close, let's hit a couple last balls here. And let's see if we can put it all together. There we have it. Thank you so much and joining us at Play Tennis Practice Yoga today for this installment of Yoga for Tennis on Court. Please subscribe to our channel for other practices on court and on the mat. I might even suggest some here at the end for you to watch. Thank you to my dear friend, Jack Beardsworth. And thank you to all of you, and happy practicing.